Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of the Trequartista podcast in conjunction with La Magicast. We have Greg Simaluka and Julian De Martinis with us tonight. Very special first review of Serie A. I know you guys are excited, right?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Definitely.
Let's get to the introductions. I already said them, but Greg Simaluka, founder of La Magicast. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, guys. How are you?
Good. We're doing well. We're doing well.
Thanks for having me back on.
Of course. We got rave reviews last time you were in. I swear to God.
Here.
So
I brought Julian with me this time to make me sound even better.
What's up, guys?
And that's Julian De Martinis. You can find him on ESPN FC. Also, a big fan of the late night Twitter rant. Julian De Martinis is.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it, isn't it?
And to my right, of course, you know Noah Curtis. And to the left, the most eligible bachelor on the Trequartista podcast, Mike Torres. What do you get to say? I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. Anyway, he is the most eligible bachelor. But let's get right to it. Right from the start, let's start with the first game of the Serie A this week. Verona versus Milan, no? Wasn't that the biggest surprise of the week, no?
Yeah, definitely the biggest upset. I don't think I think a lot of us kind of were unsure about how Milan was going to start the season, and last year they started it so horribly. I kind of thought they'd probably try to put a lot of emphasis on these games to make sure they got a positive start. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for them. Ultimately, for me though, it's not there's no reason to panic yet. It wasn't a good performance, but I felt like Luca Toni really played inspired for that game, and he was kind of the main reason they got those 3 points. I mean, Milan had a good penalty shout also at the end that they didn't get for Balotelli, so it could have almost been a point too. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely the biggest kind of upset of the weekend.
Yeah, Greg, do you think Milan fans should be worried by this performance at all?
Well, it's funny just thinking about the words that we're using. I think this is the most expected, unexpected result of the week, right?
Right.
So they haven't been strong starters with Allegri. Certainly, looking at last year, as was pointed out. I still would have expected better first game out, and looking at their opponent. Yes, they do have Luca Toni, and they made some shrewd moves to make themselves a little bit more Serie A ready. But still, I think they have the same problems that they've always had, and they're trying to figure out the best ways to get that team going. So it's kind of one of those results that I see, and I'm like, gee, I'm glad we didn't get Allegri.
Yeah, no, seriously. Julian, you kind of on the same boat?
Yeah, for the most part, I think watching the game I watched it live, and you could see that even someone like Balotelli was getting really frustrated throughout the affair. Milan kind of are like Roma, where they keep making the same mistakes and they don't seem to know how to address them. Their set piece defending is just atrocious, and it's not really news to anybody. So the fact that they can't seem to get over it is, I would take that as a worrying sign as a Milan fan. And it's funny, Greg, because when we had Magicast, our set piece defending wasn't really that bad, was it? He was actually pretty good.
No, yeah, it was the combination, though, I think, of him and Schwartzman.
Oh, you're saying for Roma? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not blaming this totally on him, of course, but yeah, I would be somewhat concerned if I were them. And you're right, I think we did kind of dodge a bullet by not getting Allegri.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing, too, is, the poor set-piece defending is definitely, I think if you're going to look at things to be worried about, it's things like that where there are habits that seem to have carried over from last year that don't seem to have been addressed. I mean, ultimately, this is match day 1 of 38, and so a loss on opening day for Milan's not good, but it's not the end of anybody's season. I think that the thing that you have to look at for, anybody that watches the English Premier League, that first weekend of the season, when Arsenal lost at home, everyone said, "Oh my God!" Wenger might get fired. The team is no good, and then they rebounded and got a convincing win in the Champions League. They got a convincing win this weekend, and it's things can change awfully quick. And while I think the fans, you don't want to overreact to a disappointing loss on the first day, but there are certainly, I think, there seem to be certain habits that I think it's fair to be concerned about.
You mentioned it before. I mean, it was Milan's poor start. This is kind of normal with Allegri. But again, it was the poor start last year that ended up hurting them in the end.
Yep.
So, like, we can sit here and say that, oh, it's just one game. It's not going to be a big deal. They figure it out. But, I mean, let's just think back to last year. I don't think – I mean, they didn't drop many points in the second half of the season last year, and they still finished, third? So, I mean, they need a better start. That should have been the goal going into this season. And I mean, especially teams like Verona, like top teams, I still consider Milan a top team, When you wear those colors, that you are a top team. You can't be dropping games to Verona. I mean, regardless of not knowing them coming into Serie A, I get that.
But the thing, too, I mean, you're right that it was a poor start last year, but my thing is just that this is one game. It's one game where even though they played poorly and were frustrated, if that referee calls that penalty, which I think it was a penalty late in the game, that all of a sudden we talk about a 2-2 draw that's disappointing, but they get a point. I mean, this game isn't – it's not like Verona came out and just played them off the park and completely dominated them. I think Verona, in certain phases of the game, just made them pay for slack defending. And the fact that you have a forward like Luca Toni, I think, to me, that was really kind of the story was his ability and willingness just to attack any cross that came into the box, just the Milan defenders just couldn't match that level of intensity that he brought to the game. And to me, that's what it was. I mean, these weren't like high-quality crosses and great passes by Verona unlocking the defense. These were balls that got played in the air, and the guy that wanted it the most is the one that won them.
Yeah, I mean, and Luca Toni obviously was a force, but not to fool everybody. That's how Luca Toni plays. Yeah. Like, it's not like Luca Toni all of a sudden got hot. If Luca Toni gets playing time, gets service, he is always a threat. And the key is playing time. I mean, it looks like he's going to be the number one in Verona. Yeah. I can't remember him last year he got some playing time. I remember back in 2010 where he played the second half of the season with AS Roma. He got a lot of playing time, and he ended up being a force. They ended up taking second place, I think, in 2010, right, guys?
Remind us.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I apologize. But he was incredibly effective then.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a big body in the middle, and you're absolutely right. He needs to get that playing time under his belt, and he needs to stay healthy. Because what happens is when he's sprinkled in and out, he still gets the same opportunities, but he doesn't finish. How many times have we seen him just miss that header or just miss some other play because his timing is off and his just ability to judge where the ball is off. And, he's always making that look like, I can't believe I just missed. And 9 million other people are making that same face with you, Luca. So I think he definitely needs that time, and he showed what he can still do even at his, a little bit advanced age.
Although I want to play devil's advocate a bit, because if you're Milan going into this match, by far the target man is going to be Luca Toni. So to allow him to score off a few headers in the box, it's almost unacceptable. I mean, the man is pushing 37. And for Milan, we talked about how at the beginning of the season is not really when you want to get hot. You want to do it at the end. On the other hand, a one win would have been enough for Fiorentina to get over Milan and be in the Champions League last year. The Serie A is tight, and I think it's gotten tighter this year. So, everyone's kind of got to be careful. And for Milan, I don't think this was a very good start for them. Not that they're doomed or anything, but I would be surprised if they didn't move for a few defensive pieces before the Mercato shot.
I think the way we can look at it is an opening day result, positive or negative, is going to have different impacts for different teams. Right. Milan losing this game, probably not a huge impact. Whereas, say, Juventus winning their game, probably not a huge impact. They're expected to win. Whereas Roma, with all of their turmoil and everything going on, if they had lost or drawn away to Livorno and then went home, the amount of CRA they've gotten, when they went home, it would just been a horrible, horrible situation. So the opening.
To be honest, I think the most revealing win was Napoli's, because for all the changes they had over the summer, the question was, were they going to click right away or not? And to win 3-0 and have a new signing score, Hamsik running the show like always, that's a good sign. They're a dangerous team. I mean, they're legit. They're going to be ones you're going to have to watch out for this season.
Yeah, let's talk about that game for a second. from the start, the thing that you noticed was Callejon's presence.
Mhm.
Him getting the start over Insigne. I'm sure a lot of Napolitani were upset with that. I know a lot of Italians, just in general, were excited,
You
like
wanted to-
myself, because I'm really excited to see Insigne play. I think this is a huge year for him. But Callejon, very active.
and deserving of the start, ultimately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ultimately deserving of the start. What was your big takeaway of the Napoli match?
I mean, it's nice to see the new signings integrate well. Higuain played pretty well as well, but Blake Benitez was quick to point out after the match as well. I mean, some of the guys that were there last year, Hamšík, Pandev, those guys are still very much, you know, big important players for this club. But Hamšík is the key. I mean, he's so I feel like on kind of a European stage, he's kind of an underrated player. I mean, people that watch Serie A know how good he is, but I feel like people that don't really watch a lot of Italian soccer don't really get how good of a player he really is, and he completely dominated that match. I felt like he was setting up people all over the park. He got 2 goals for himself. I mean, Napoli just completely took a stranglehold on the game and never really let it go. And to you know, like Julian said, to get a new guy scoring a goal, you know, like Callejon, it's good to get that confidence to start off right, because it can be tough for new signings with pressure on them.
Right.
The longer you go, especially for forwards, you know, the longer you go without getting goals, they put that pressure on themselves. The fans are kind of like, when are you going to score? So for Callejon to come in, I think Higuain, people are less nervous about, you know that, you know, as long as he doesn't fall off too many yachts, like he'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, like as long as he can, like, you know, not slip on rocks, like he should score goals. So it's indicative of just how the depth and the varied attack that Napoli can throw at you. That they're going to be a real force this year as long as those guys are healthy, especially Hamšík, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I feel like this is definitely Hamšík's year. He's been living in the shadow of Lavezzi and then Cavani.
Yeah.
Now it's his time to shine. He's going to show that he's going to be the one to step up and make plays.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Hamšík is we're looking at a guy who is one of the most consistent players in Serie A for the last 4 years, really. I mean, so consistent. And yeah, maybe he was basically in the shadows of Lavezzi and Cavani, and this is a huge opportunity for him, I think. This is his team now. It's his team.
Exactly.
He's also just a more I don't think like Cavani gets the headlines because, you know, he bangs in goals, but like Hamšík can do so much more. I mean, he has the ability to score, but he pulls the strings in midfield. He does a lot of defensive work. You know, he's a real, you know, box to box player when he does a lot of things for Napoli, the kind of the little things that don't always go unnoticed. But he's a real leader on this team, and he seems like he's ready to take that role on. That's crucial for Benitez and for him to get that guy to really buy in and be a big part of the team and kind of shoulder that kind of leadership role. That's huge.
Yeah, let's move to the Roma game now. I know this is your wheelhouse. Really great result, I thought, for Roma. I know Florenzi was a big surprise for everybody. Played an extremely strong game, let's just say. What were your takeaways? Greg, I guess we can start with you.
My takeaways are, it looks like the players, while still in transition, because who knows who's coming and going, I think they're really starting to understand the difference between what is now essentially their third straight 4-3-3 offering. So you had Luis Enrique, and then you had Zeman, and now when we look at Rudy Garcia, I think with the players they've got and what they're trying to do, the way he runs that formation, I think suits the players the best. And the players are really finally starting to show that they're understanding of how he wants them to move, which is basically, you may start on a formation sheet over here because I have to put somebody over here, but when the game starts, it's an open playing field. And I want, if you feel like you can create space by going from left to right, then go from left to right. And that works whether you're midfield or the attack. And I think you saw some of that going through because Florenzi was the right forward, if you will, the right wing up front. And he made so many runs down the left side or cutting across from right to left. And vice versa, and Totti was all over the middle as he generally tends to roam anyway. So I really think that the players are starting to play a little bit more to the way Rudy Garcia wants them to, which is understandable. They haven't had a whole lot of time together, and they will continue to grow. And And the midfield, again, the same thing. That kind of understanding really helps them protect the back line. I mean, very little affected them defensively. Granted, because they were playing Livorno.
It was Livorno, yeah.
Yeah, true.
No, it's a good point. I mean, this is a game we traditionally struggle with. I think it was the first time in 5 years we actually won on opening day. And Livorno is a team we traditionally struggle against because we always do poorly against the lower teams. So winning was nice. I think not all questions were answered. I'm not really convinced by Borriello. As a stopgap until Destro comes back, it's one thing. But if he's got some serious playing time in him is another question. And Jorginho came on for a bit, but he was pretty invisible, I thought, the time he was on the pitch. But he needs some time to adjust, of course.
That might not even be adjustment time. That might just be what happens.
Yeah, that's the jury's out on that one. I thought was great was seeing that the two goal scorers were both Romans. To see Florenzi breaking the deadlock after he adjusted, because I thought he started off kind of invisible. He's not really a winger at all. De Rossi scored. You're right. De Rossi scored first, right? Damn it, Greg. What was I saying? Right. So Florenzi's not really a winger anyway. So I thought he took him a little bit to adjust in that role. But his runs in the second half were incredible. He hit the post. He was consistently beating the offside trap.
Yeah.
And that was key. I think Totti, going back to his false nine role, like under the Spalletti days, really freed up some space for him to dart inside from.
So
we talked about this. I want to maybe it was on Twitter. I don't remember. But it was in our Roma Journal article. We did a Q&A before the season starts, and I definitely wanted to put Totti back as false nine, because if he has speed coming off the wings, I mean, he's going to be able to create. The problem with him playing left wing is we lose the left wing in our 4-3-3 when he plays there, because he doesn't want to play on the wing.
Yeah.
Well, the real issue, the interesting thing is going to be when Destro comes back. If he starts in the middle and Totti's nominally on the left, or if we shift Destro out wide nominally and keep Totti in the middle, because Totti's going to go wherever he wants to go, basically.
That's why I'm kind of with Greg there. It's almost. It doesn't make sense to give him that wing role, because a guy like that, you can't tell him where to play, and you can draw up schemes for him and tell him what his role is, but in the end, he knows more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So, or at least he thinks.
The thing I think ultimately is just that there's balance over there. Totti's going to drift inside. We need to make sure we get some good coverage on the left wing. Right. So it's going to depend. If we have Bradley and De Rossi playing together, it might be possible. You keep one of them closer to the left. They're both pretty good defensively. The most interesting thing I thought was that Struman did not even play this game.
Yeah, that's true.
He's absolutely going to be a key figure this year. So how do you fit him into this midfield, which did pretty well, all things considered, against a really defensive Livorno side?
So let me ask you, where do you see the holes in the Roma starting lineup right now? I know there are a lot of rumors swirling around in terms of Jacic, or however you want to say his last name, coming in potentially with Eric Lamela maybe leaving to Tottenham. That's almost official. So where's the hole right now, and what needs to be addressed immediately? If anything needs to be addressed.
I think they need They obviously have to replace him, Lamela. So whether it's Laic or whomever else, they need somebody that has pace and creativity on the wing. So I think that's where you start. And then they never really replaced Osvaldo. So unless, and I don't think he has plans to use Totti as a 9 or a false 9 or any other kind of 9. So they have to find somebody, whether it's temporary till Destro gets back, or maybe some kind of rotational level between those two. Those are the two glaring needs. I'd like to see the defense under pressure, so I know what we've got. So may have to wait another couple weeks for that to happen, but I think generally we're okay there. Maybe some help some backup on a left back position, but.
But we have Toro TVs too who could fill in. I mean, our defense isn't spectacular. I think it should be good enough for this season. Our fullbacks are really too old to be any kind of long-term thing. But I have to say, I thought Maicon did a pretty good job. Again, it was against Livorno, but he showed some of the spark of the old Maicon. So if he can keep it up, like I said, for a team with no Europe, for a team that's kind of rebuilding, we just really need a guy who can put in a shift over there.
Yeah, another question I had, or I think a lot of people had. the Roma defense, obviously, the last few years have been questionable. This year was a question mark too, whether they were going to actually be able to hold up. They hold out a shutout against Livorno. Does that speak more to Roma's defense or just dull attack for Livorno?
I think it's their opponent.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the guys, I mean, they weren't really put under a lot of pressure. So I'm.
Yeah, but Greg, on the other hand, this is a game. This is a game last year we would have lost 1-0.
Yeah, but I mean,
that, so it's a little bit of both.
It is, but it goes back to what I mentioned the first time I was on this podcast, where you look at the people that they were going after, and it was very obvious that they were trying to stabilize every portion of the field. Right, Venezia is very stable. Everybody, he's played in the league. He's got some experience. Strootman, right, stabilizing force. At that point in time, it was more 9 from Cagliari. So they were looking to bring in guys that just could stabilize the team. So I think that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think too.
Right. I think another part of it too is just having a guy like DeSantis at the back who isn't the world's greatest goalkeeper, but he can do something that Stecklenburg never really did, which is he can communicate. And he shouts all the time. Yeah. He yells like crazy, which is exactly what we need from a goalkeeper at the back.
Excellent.
And he commands his area really well. He's always coming out for balls. And he looks very assured when he makes saves. Now, again, long-term solution, not really. But do we need one this season? No. I'm content with this season giving the back a pass. If they could just stop being Italy's second worst defense for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then if we want to slowly integrate guys like Romagnoli and some youth guys in there or sign some more, that's fine. But to get back in Europe, we needed defense. And if this will do it, then so be it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, what you saw, I mean, to say that like Livorno had anything like an attack is kind of just misusing the word attack. I mean, they didn't really have anything going forward, and I mean, it kind of underlined the difference to me. I mean, you got to give Roma credit because teams that pack it in like that, it can be very frustrating for teams, and they did a really good job of just making sure they held onto the ball, not making silly errors or allowing counterattacks, and then they took their goals, and it killed the game off. And so you got to give credit to them for that. Livorno obviously doesn't really have much in the way of anything going forward right now. And I mean, this really underlined to me like the difference you're seeing between two promoted teams. We just talked about Verona, and they have a guy that has a proven track record in Serie A, and they get a result.
Yeah.
And you see a team that doesn't have that score. I mean, for teams that are coming up from any lower division in any kind of big European league, you can have defenders that might not be top level, but they can do a job for you. But if you don't have someone that's going to score goals consistently, you're just not going to hack it. And Livorno just don't look like they have that person.
Although, to be fair, I think that Paulinho is probably too good a player for Livorno.
Yeah.
I think that it's to the credit of Benatti and Castano. They kept him really well locked down. He is tricky. He wanders all over the pitch, and he can pick a mean pass. But Benatti, I don't think gave him like an inch of space to crawl over. So you're right. I mean, he's not Tevez. He's not gonna.
Right.
It's not Balotelli, but he could have caused us damage. He's the exact kind of player that last year would have hurt us hard.
Right.
So I think again, it's a credit to the way that like we talked about with Milan. One game isn't going to make or break a season, but this game was very encouraging, I think, for Roma because this is the kind of game that would have been a pitfall. And from what we've seen, they handled it well. This is probably the best way you can handle a test like this. So if this is a sign of things to come, much more assured against lower teams, not going to panic, not going to concede on the counter, then it can't be much worse a season than last year.
Yeah.
It looks promising.
All right, well, let's move to last year's champions, Juve. Some say a comfortable win against Sampdoria. It was a pretty tough test for them the last, 7 years? They haven't been able to beat them away from home?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really call it a comfortable win either. I mean, if you watch the game, and this is happening all throughout Italy, but just downpours throughout the whole game, really sloppy. One thing I'll credit to Juve, though, is that they still tried to kind of play that ball on the ground, link passes together, and they were successful for the most part.
Of course, with the goal they managed to score there, you must have.
I mean, that's
Paul Pogba in your pants there after that.
I did. I had a raging Paul Pogba in my pants after that goal, but it was. I mean, credit to them to still sticking to their game, even being held 0-0 at halftime. Look, I mean, 1 through 11, I think Juve are settled. I think that they're the best team in Serie A. I don't think there are a whole lot of people who can go against that.
Mhm.
I mean, the question with you.
And Tevez was a great addition.
Oh,
them. I
for
mean,
sure.
I think absolutely he's the striker they've been looking for.
For sure. The way he can take defenders on. And the thing about Tevez that you don't realize is he's so strong on the ball. It's so hard to get the ball off him. And it's phenomenal. He's definitely a great pair with Vucinic, too, who seemed to take that role away from Llorente, who everybody kind of thought would have that second striker role. Anyway, with Juventus, the question going forward, I think obviously they're all set for Serie A. I think really the questions come in the Champions League. What's going to happen with the excess of strikers that they have right now? Quagliarella, Matri, both rumored to go. Quagliarella
At least one of them, I think, should go.
Yeah, I think one of them will go. For me, I think Matri gets the bigger asking price, and I think Quagliarella is a more useful striker. So, I mean, if I were Agnelli, if I were Marotta, I'd try to keep Quagliarella at Juve if it was either one or the other, and I'd try to sell Matri. What do you think about that, Noah? Who would you go with?
If I'm someone trying to buy.
No. If you're Juve, who is more important to you? Who's the more useful striker?
I think Quagliarella is more useful. He's a little more versatile. I think he could fit in the system a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't think they really need Matri. I mean, Llorente can kind of do what he does. They just brought him in.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't really need and I think depending on the team, you might be able to get more money. I don't know if there'd be a huge difference in the price. If I flip this around, like I would feel like more teams would be coming after Quagliarella.
You think so?
I think so because of his versatility and he's a skilled player. That I think could fit in a lot of different team systems.
Yeah.
But more so than Matri.
Health a factor?
Well, that's true. I mean, in his torn ACL, I mean, there was definitely a huge transition for him after the surgery. I think that definitely brings down the asking price a little bit.
But then I think, I mean, if you're a team looking to buy, maybe you get a deal for a player where the asking price is a little low and he's actually worth more.
Yeah, no, ultimately, I think you're right.
I think he would be a more useful addition to a team than Matri is necessarily because I think Matri can do a certain number of things well, but I think Quagliarella has more ability. And I think he can fit. He's a little bit more of a versatile fit in some different systems. But again, it's a good problem for Juve to have. They have a lot of depth up top. They have a lot of depth in the middle. I mean, one player that I know Juve fans really like, but might kind of have trouble getting a spot is Marchisio this year. With how well Pogba is playing, and he played, and it's not like this is new. He played well last year as well.
And this is a really interesting subject for Juventini. I don't think a lot of Juventini want to admit this, but I'm comfortable in my own skin saying this right now. If it comes to Marchisio and Pogba at 100% fitness each, you got to go with Pogba.
Pogba's going to break your heart one day. Marchisio will stay.
Marchisio will stay. I know, and that's the sad part because Marchisio's been around for so long. I mean, he was there in Serie B as well. But Pogba is just he is a top-class midfielder. I really think so. Let's see. I mean, let's compare him to Marchisio. He's a better ball winner. He's better at the final pass. I think he's more creative than Marchisio. One thing Marchisio has over Pogba, I'd say, is his ability to maybe cover more ground. He's a little bit more versatile on the wings if we need him there.
Also the age, too. I mean,
the age, too, obviously. I don't think it's done for Marchisio in black and white by any means because Pirlo's not going to be able to play, all the games in Serie A and Champions League. And Conte's always kind of substituting those wingers. So Marchisio's going to get his time. The question really is what happens at the end of Pirlo's contract. We get a World Cup coming up. It's the end of his contract with Juve. Then Marchisio can kind of fit him.
But what I would say, though, is that if you're Marchisio and you have any hope of making this Italian World Cup squad, I mean, you can't be at Juve this year, can you? How is he going to make he's not going to make the World Cup squad if he's just maybe a sponsor.
It might be too early. It might be. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you think of a squad like Juve this year, there's no way that they're holding out. They're going for the Champions League. They're going for the league. They're going for the Copa. There's going to be enough rotation. Exactly.
Did Giaccherini play every game last year?
Giaccherini definitely did not play every game. No.
So, and he had zero problems getting called up by Prandelli.
Yeah, that's.
Giaccherini.
Yeah, well,
Right, but
yeah.
I think he also loves Marchisio.
No, I agree. No, that's a great point. He's one of Prandelli's guys, you know. Speaking of which, Juve definitely should have sent Giovinco over to Sunderland instead of Giaccherini, but that's on I guess, a different topic.
Yeah, but even Sunderland aren't that stupid. Maybe you call up Newcastle. They probably do.
Yeah. All right, where should we go to next, Mike?
Do we want to talk a little Inter?
Yeah, I think it's. I think Inter's definitely due.
It's that time of the.
I mean, they won, so we should definitely give them some sort of applause.
I mean, I think they should have won good 4 or 5-0. They missed a lot of chances in that match.
You know, Julian was saying it earlier about Roma. Being one of those games that typically they dropped last year. I felt the same way about Inter and Genoa because it was pretty deadlocked to a certain point. And Genoa were fighting, sometimes finding opportunities. And last year, that's a game that Inter drops. They just didn't have that character. I guess, what it came down to me was when they substituted in Icardi, I think a lot of people noticed his difference, his presence on the field, and it really opened things up. Julian, do you have any takeaways from the Inter and Genoa game?
Inter, I think, are interesting because they remind me in some ways of Roma last year. They're gambling a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the team overall is cohesive, but it's an interesting team. I think that all Mazzarri really needs to do is stabilize it a little bit. They have one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A, which is going to help them immensely.
Oh, for sure,
The defense, I'm not really convinced by at all. It depends how Ranocchia does this year. But up front, they're gambling a lot with youth. They have Icardi and they have Belfodil. And Icardi is, I think, the real deal. I think he's going to explode sooner than later. But their team, like I said, the midfield is the real question because you have really good guys like Guarin, Kovacic, but then the rest of the cast are not really. I don't know if they're necessarily Inter quality, but if Mazzarri can just get them I understand Marchioni last season, they were completely unpredictable. They win 10 in a row and then they lose 10 in a row. If he can just get them to, win 5 and draw 3 of those instead.
Right.
This is, I think, what Roma's biggest fear is that the teams in front of Roma have only gotten better, I think. Lazio, I'm not so sure, and I don't think that's just my bias talking. Udinese, I don't think they've gotten better either. I think they've maybe gotten a little weaker. And I wonder how many more miracles Guidolin can pull out of his hat. But when you look at Napoli, Inter, Fiorentina for sure. Milan haven't gotten any worse, and they have Balotelli for the whole season. There are a lot of teams that have gotten stronger this summer, and I think Inter were one of them. So they're going to be one of the more interesting ones to watch every Sunday.
I should probably mention that every once in a while Julian goes into auto-tune land when we're recording this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I love auto-tune land.
Only slightly. I'm going to liken Inter to Napoli. Obviously, you have the coach swap there, but the drastic stylistic changes those two teams have undergone, and the bodies swapping and all the different changes going on between those two organizations, I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch how that develops throughout the year. And I think because of that, it was impressive that both came away with the wins that they got.
Yeah.
It's tough to make that many changes, and this isn't like going from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 or anything like that. These are complete upheavals and a lot of new players playing in different positions and old players playing in different positions and trying to figure out how to make it all work. So that was really kind of what impressed me. Those two teams in this first week really impressed me with the way they handled that transition.
I think the thing, too, is, just as much as there's been a lot of change at Inter, Genoa is also a team that had made a lot of changes in the offseason with personnel, too, and I think it showed in two teams that were just a little bit, just two teams that were a little bit disjointed, and they had some ideas and some good ideas, kind of, but they didn't seem to both have that complete cohesion. Yeah. Inter, I think, had a little more quality and that showed out. But like you said, Julie, this was a game that Inter probably would have maybe only taken a point from last year. And so I think right now that's what that's what Mazzarri has to do with them is he has to just kind of instill this ability for them to grind out grind out games like this, and if you can get a game like this, even if it's a 1-0 win, right, and you get those 3 points, that's what they need to focus on doing is getting those kind of. Sometimes you got to win in not the most stylish manner. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, this is definitely a Mazzarri trait, and it's something that I didn't see Inter. I saw Inter do once last year, and it was that stomp on the throat goal at the end, to seal the game. I haven't seen Inter do that. Maybe the last year against Juventus, when they beat Juventus at Juventus Stadium, I saw that. But it was that stomp in the throat, this is our game is over goal. Something you saw Napoli do all the time last year, all the time. And you see Inter do it the first game of the season. So positive things for Inter this week, obviously. Yeah. Mike, where do you want to go to next?
Fiorentina.
The roulette. I guess we should go with Fiorentina today with the 2-1 win over Catania.
Yeah.
Your takeaway?
Back, he got a pretty early goal, which I'm sure took a lot off of kind of his mind, and that's a feel good story. Fiorentina looked really good, created a lot of chances. Catania hung in there though. It wasn't like I didn't think Fiorentina necessarily completely dominated them. Catania's not a bad team, I don't think, and they created some things and got a goal back. Ultimately, Fiorentina probably just had a little bit too much quality. When you see the type of players that can bring off their bench and the type of players in that squad, they're a fun team to watch, definitely.
Yeah.
You'd like to see Mario Gomez finish that sitter he had that he put off the post, and he had another pretty good chance he put wide too, which isn't a concern, but it kind of would have made a perfect kind of debut for him to get that goal after Rossi had already scored on his debut as well. So it was a good game for Fiorentina. I think you take away the fact that they're going to be good this year. They're going to create a lot of chances. To me, it's just going to be how do they do in games where teams do try to kind of pack it in on them a little bit? Do they get frustrated? Do they kind of get out of that rhythm that they have? Do they struggle to defend counterattacks? Things like that. Yeah. It's going to be those things that maybe undo them. I think Gomez will be fine. He didn't have his best finishing day to day. That'll happen.
So I'll ask the La Magicast guys this. When you look at Montella at Fiorentina, is it a bitter feeling that you have, or is it more of a soft spot than anything?
I think Greg knows my answer to this one.
Well, do you want to give it first then, and I'll follow?
I guess not. No, I love Montella. I do a lot. I thought a lot of people seem to think he should have stayed at Rome. For a lot of reasons, I think he kind of had to go. So I don't have any bitterness towards what he does. I really hope he's successful. Not at Roma's expense, but I have nothing against this project. I think it's to the strength of what they did this summer that there's almost no one talking about how they don't have Jovetic. Everyone's excited about the new signings. I think they more than adequately replaced him. Mm-hmm. And to think he was like the talisman of this side, and there's no one's wondering how they'll cope without him. So they had a hell of a mercato this year. They're another team where the defense, I'm not really sure how it's going to hold up against the league's other big sides. But and the other thing I think they have to worry about is now all the expectations are on them after the kind of mercato and summer they had. I don't think they've ever come into a season, with as high hopes in a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with not really being like one of the smaller guns anymore.
Yeah, I kind of in the same boat. I have no issues with Montella at all. I'm happy for him, like Julian said, unless you're playing Roma. I want him to succeed. Yeah. Lots of love there still for our favorite airplane. Yeah. And I think he's doing a great job. I agree again with Julian that the initial time to let him go was the right one. I thought maybe they could have brought him back after the 1 year at Catania, but for whatever reason it didn't work out, and that's fine. And I'm glad that he still has an opportunity to do it at a decent sized club, and he's making the most of it. And I'm happy for him.
All right, let's do our final kind of recap of this week. Players of the week. So, Noah, we can start with you. Who was your player of the week in Serie A?
It was tough. There were a lot of good performances. I'm gonna go with Luca Toni though. He got 2 big goals, got them 3 points. It's huge for Verona to not only start the season on a positive note, but then to also you beat a big team like Milan and he looks motivated and ready to go. I was impressed with how he played. I know it's not like it's out of character how he did that, but for a guy that I feel like a lot of us kind of forgot about, you know what I mean, after last year.
Not to mention he's gone through a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, he's gone through a lot.
To see him, come out and just the way he was attacking everything and playing, I mean, that was kind of vintage Luca Toni, and that's, I mean, I'm sure Verona's gonna be hoping for more performances. Like
and you know he was happy not only after scoring those 2 goals, but seeing Mario Gomez miss that sitter at Fiorentina after Mario Gomez takes his job twice.
And actually, Mario Gomez's haircut does not look as nice as Luca Toni's right now.
No, Luca Toni has just great hair right now, and he's
everything's going good for him right now.
Oh, for sure. Greg, what about you?
I'm going to stay on the Fiorentina theme and go with my Jersey boy, Giuseppe Rossi. I'm very happy for him to have gotten on the score sheet and to see him healthy, to see him playing, and I hopefully will see him back in Azzurri Blue soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. What about you, Julian?
I'm going to go with Florenzi. I'm going to make it pretty biased.
Good job. What a homer pick. For fire.
For Roman playing out of position, to have the game he had, I was super impressed with him. And I really do. I mean, I feel like it's funny because he only came on this season, the team last year, but it kind of feels like he's been there forever. And he's kind of one of those players who's quickly become like untouchable for me, which is dangerous because the last 2 players that were untouchable were Marquinhos and Lamela. So I'm hoping they're kind of
What if we get an offer for 40 mil?
For how much?
For 40 million right now, go.
No. You got to draw a line somewhere, Greg. You know that. Yeah, I thought, like I said, his running was great. The thing I love about him most is he's like Peralta in that way. He makes runs that are just so incisive, and he's always willing to run for the team. So he's my pick.
Joe, you got one? We'll let Mike go last. Or do you want to go? You got one?
You got one.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Hamsik, who I was beating the drum for earlier. I mean, I agree with the Luca Toni bit, just more because what he could do with a small team.
That's a good pick.
But I think what Hamsik did is just
impressive.
stepping up to the plate.
Yeah.
One of the best players this week.
It's a good pick. Joe?
Well, I mean, I was going to go with Hamsik too, but
That's
I
why
mean,
went first.
damn you, you're a
Now
piece of
you're
shit.
first to go with the homer pick.
No, I'm not going Homer. I'm going to go with, we mentioned him earlier, I'm going to go with Icardi. Came in, completely changed that Inter game, scored 2 goals. Well, he didn't score 2 goals in the game, but he really affected all of Inter's play in the second half. Also, Freddie Guardin played a great game too. We didn't mention him, but he was really dangerous on the right flank. But let's stick with one. Icardi, he's my player of the week for the first week of Serie A. So there you have it.
What's that brought to you by? Is that brought to you by Papa Gino's or something like that?
That is the Papa John's Week 1 Player of the Week, Serie A. No, there's no way that Papa John's. That was a terrible example, actually.
Maybe Mama Regina's?
No, let's be honest. It's just Tim. If anybody's sponsored it, it's Tim.
Did we get any Twitter questions? I feel like we saw some. Maybe not. If we didn't, then maybe make some up. And if we didn't get any,
somebody's optimistic this week.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if we had some, like, people like tweeting questions as we go through and
we still got best goals. We can talk about goals.
Yeah. Well, I think De Rossi's goal was great.
Yeah.
That was I thought the best goal of the week.
That was great to see. I haven't seen De Rossi score a goal like that for Rome in a while. I mean, all of his goals are usually like.
Scored a goal for Rome in a while, period.
Yeah, period. I guess. I get the only goals I remember of De Rossi at Rome are like. Just crosses where he's just dang it off. Yeah, like he'll like end up in the net. Like that's a. Well, we can. Go ahead.
He scored all his screamers when he was younger.
Yeah. Let's move forward to next week, and we'll stay with Roma. They have the honor of playing Verona for the second week in Serie A. So, guys, what's the key for Roma going into this Verona match?
Juju?
You want me to go first, Greggy?
Sure.
I was going to say, more of the same, I think. Whether or not Lamella's there, whether or not Strugan plays, I think they're going to have to put in a very similar performance because, Verona's also a promoted team. they're going to definitely not. They're going to be looking for the draw. I don't think they're going to be hoping to win. But they'll try to play on the counter. We need to have the same kind of defensive solidarity we had at the back. I'm more interested to see who plays up front. If Gervinho gets the nod, if we keep Florenzi out where he is, because I think that's going to have a big say in the game. But it also depends. If Lamela gets sold and Lige Jack comes in, it could be interesting to see what he does too. So it's still kind of a question mark, but a similar performance as we had today should do it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree actually, and I think they definitely need to keep the same patience that they had, and there were times where the ball just went from midfielder, center back, left back, midfielder, and then back around again. And just because they weren't trying to force the issue, they were trying to wait for their spots to open up and for guys to continue to move to create those openings. So I think they need to continue to do that. They need to continue to listen to Garcia's direction and be very mobile around the pitch. And I think they're going to get tested a lot more on defense. So I want to look at that. I want to see how they do with a little bit more of a test pinned back in their own end.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I want to see how the defense reacts this second week. I mean, they held up the shutout last week, and if there is a little bit more of attack, they know what to expect with Luca Toni. Let's see if they can hold him off.
Well, how are they going to do? How are they going to do with a lot of crosses coming into the box? A guy that's going to compete for everything, and also that when a team likes to play that style, it means that there's a lot of second balls to be won. Those are the key things. I mean, if Roma take care of things at the back and they keep someone kind of martial on Luca Toni, don't let him get free headers and things like that, they should be able to kind of quiet down Verona's attack. And I think as long as like you said, I mean, they just need to be patient, keep the ball, play smart, and they have more talent. They need to kind of let that show, basically.
Yep. Agreed.
So let's go to Milan Cagliari. This is actually a sexy. You know how high I am on Cagliari this season. David Amoyal will tell you last week. I was preaching in his ear how good Cagliari is, and look at them the first week of the season. Because first week means everything.
First week's huge. Yeah.
First week is huge. But Milan Cagliari, this is I still think it's a dangerous game for Milan. Look,
there's a lot. The longer they go with either unconvincing performances or, God forbid, they draw or lose this game at home, I mean, it just ramps the pressure up more and more on the team. I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, this isn't an easy game for Milan. I'm sure their fans are not terribly pleased with the club right now, and they're gonna be in an environment where if it takes them a long time to get a goal, if Cagliari goal up, things like that, you could see that those crowds start to kind of make some voice their displeasure a little bit.
And this is a stronger attack in my opinion than Verona. Marco Sau, Pinilla, Ibarbo, Ibarbo, jeez. But you guys, any takeaway or not takeaways, but looking forward to the Milan Cagliari game? Anything there?
I'm looking forward to more players whose names we can't pronounce.
Seriously.
I think you guys hit on a lot of the major points. That there's an invisible weight right now that's sitting on Milan's shoulders.
Yeah.
And every second that takes away that they are not winning, even if it's tied, that they are not winning, that invisible weight is going to get heavier and heavier, even though it's only the second game. I think there's a certain amount of pressure that they may start to feel. So it'll be very important for them to get off to a nice start to this game and show the quality that certainly exists in that roster.
Yeah, what I'm going to be looking for a lot too is how Balotelli reacts. He hasn't also been quiet in Serie A since he transferred over from Milan. So not scoring last game, I wonder if he's going to be impatient to score this one and rush too many things, or if he'll just settle down and do what he always does, which is just punish teams. But he's always one to watch anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how he reacts.
Yeah, and on that note, which Montolivo are we going to get? Are we going to get one who's creative, attacking, looking to to do something, or are we going to get one who's in a coma like we saw last week? It's so frustrating.
The thing too is that we already saw last week at the end of that game how frustrated Balotelli was with the way that he was playing, with the way the team was playing, and we've seen him take that in two different directions. He can channel that into excellent performances. He can channel that into just destroying his team's chances with a stupid red card or whatever. So that's going to be important. But Mike, I mean, who's the guy up for Milan that has to step up and kind of take hold of this team? Is it Balotelli? I mean, they need somebody that's going to say like, look, we're going to come out, we're going to stamp our authority on this game and take control of it. Who's that guy going to be? Is it Super Mario?
I mean, I think definitely you need Super Mario to have a cool head. You want him to be poised. I know that there was some fan stuff going on last week where they actually just clapped at him every time
that was pretty funny.
Like
I thought that was funny.
So it probably kind of threw him off guard. But yeah, I mean,
he was expecting the
he's a good head on his shoulders, but you know what? El Shaarawy's got to step up too, though.
The Pharaoh.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people are making a lot of their relationship and if they can actually coexist. So next week will definitely be a great opportunity to prove it. I think that's good with Milan Cagliari. Next week we also have Juve Lazio, and I think that this is more for Lazio. Say that again.
If only both teams could lose. Huh?
No, I think this is definitely a bigger test for Lazio, having to come off that embarrassing Supercoppa effort against Juventus. So, to be honest, Lazio need to flood the midfield a little bit more. I think they were getting torn apart on counterattacks against Juve, something you don't see really from Juve. I don't think they did particularly well in the past. Just getting torn apart on counterattacks. I'd like to see them flood the midfield a little bit more, make it a little bit more difficult for Pogba, for Pirlo to start stringing passes, get Arturo Vidal frustrated a little bit. That's really what Lazio need to do, in my opinion.
Lazio also have that's a team that has midfielders that have the ability to pass the ball and play football. You know what I mean? It's difficult to play against a team like Juventus because to beat them, I think you need to keep the ball, pull those guys out of position, and make them kind of chase the game a little bit. And not a lot of teams have the quality in the midfield to stack up against Juve, and Lazio have talented players in the midfield. So. Yeah, I think they need to hold the ball. They need big games from Candreva and Hernandez. Those guys need to kind of step up and take their game to another level and sort of nice goal. But to me, with Lazio, with Klose up top, I mean, we know what he is. And he's a guy that's great in the 18-yard box, but he doesn't create a ton of stuff. He finishes it, and so I just don't know how many Lazio players are really going to threaten this Juve defense. I think that they'll be able to marshal Klose pretty well. And I think Lazio will play well. I'm sure they're not going to. I don't see them coming out and playing like they did in the Supercoppa game. I think they'll give them a good game. I thought earlier, like when we were looking at the fixtures a couple of weeks ago, I thought that this might be a potential game where Juve would maybe drop some points early, but I wasn't too convinced with how Lazio started the season, so I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. But I think it'll be a tough test for Juve. It's not an easy first home game of the season.
Yeah. I think that.
Mike,
do you have any take on the Juve Lazio?
You got the Lazio colors on tonight too.
I know. Well, see, the beauty of this is that actually I have the light blue and you have the orange. And I realized this when we started recording. Joe's got the mix of both.
I know.
Sitting in the middle there.
Well, we planned
the
that.
fusion.
We planned that out.
Yeah. But I think you put it pretty well. Where this is like Lazio's just really got to make do for that Supercoppa defeat.
Yeah.
Like, that was an embarrassment. Like they got to do something, and I don't know if we're really gonna see that in Juventus' own house. So.
Yeah. But if Lazio, imagine if Lazio goes in there, and just loses like 3 or 4-0 or something that's not a good way to start the season for Lazio.
Okay with that.
I'm sure you guys would be absolutely fine with that.
But this is also going in right before international break again too. So
yeah,
a lot of time to fester.
True.
These results here.
All right, let's close it with parting shots. We did this last week with David Amoyal. I think it was a hit. It's basically like Festivus If something's on your mind that's bothering you about Serie A, if you're looking forward to something next week, can be a short sentence, whatever. Just let it out. Noah, what's yours?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go
You
first.
put me on the spot.
Just make it up. Doesn't matter.
I'm looking forward to. It's kind of like what we were just talking about. I'm looking forward to the Juve Lazio game. I'd like to see, I'd like to see teams, especially in this kind of like next tier of teams like Roma, Lazio, the Milan, teams. I want to see those teams kind of come up and challenge Juve. I mean, I think it's gonna be more fun for Serie A if there's teams taking points off them, and this is the first opportunity for kind of a bigger side in Serie A to have a go at Juve. So I'm hoping for just a tight game that's gonna display a good performance for Lazio. So I think it should be good.
Mike, what about you?
I don't have anything to rant about this week.
No, you got to find something. It doesn't even need to be Serie A related. How about that?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, Benfica have been had a disappointing start to the season once again. If
we're doing our own clubs, I mean, Leeds is doing pretty good. So.
Yeah, of course.
Magicast. So, Greg, we'll start with you. Any grievances or anything you're looking forward to next week?
I think I'm very curious. I know that there's going to be limited home fan support because of the racism issues from last year. But we had a really good question in our Q&A on Roma Journal about the ultras and do they help or are they more of a hindrance?
Yeah.
And, the passion of those fans is so tremendous that the value they can be on the positive side, and it's truly something to behold, especially in Rome. And maybe, again, we're biased, so I say especially in Rome. But they also cause a lot of problems, and it's it's a very fine line that they tend to cross very easily into the negative side. So I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be from them.
That's a fair question. Julian, do we still have Julian?
I think we're just trying to get him back.
He's been in now.
Yeah.
I will answer for Julian.
Okay. Yeah, what do you think Julian's grievances, or what do you think he's looking forward to?
I'm trying to think of something really witty to say that would make Julian look very, very poor, but I just can't do it at the moment because he's a heck of a guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could pick a second one for myself, perhaps in his stead. Maybe we could do something like that. But I'll say that I hate the international breaks. I understand the necessity of it.
Completely agree with you. Preach.
After 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After 2 weeks, it's just so difficult.
Yeah.
Starting to get some chemistry going. So I'm in the international break. It's like
No, you're still here.
No, you're still there.
I'm still here. Good, cool. All right, win.
You got cut off
the international break coming this early in season.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that point.
Actually, that's probably one I would have taken, but Brazil are playing
Well,
Portugal.
you're too late.
So
too late.
I wouldn't object against this. I wouldn't object against this one just because we can finally get to watch the Portuguese national team.
We won't have to worry.
That's right. Brazil and Portugal in Boston. That's gonna be really fun.
Once FIFA flips the World Cup to winter, I'm sure we can reshuffle the international dates.
Yeah,
we won't have to worry
I guess mine, and this is more for my brother Anthony, who's a diehard Palermo fan out there. Gattuso, restore the glory in Palermo, if there ever was glory. Get a win this next week, and let's see Palermo back in Serie A, huh? How does that sound?
They had a draw first week.
Yeah, draw first week, and I don't know who they have this upcoming week, but they definitely are due for a win.
And Anthony, we miss you, and come back on the podcast.
Come back on the podcast sometime. Greg, well, actually, I'm not even going to thank you. This is a Magicast podcast as well. So
it's a shared thanks, and we had a great. I'm going to assume Julian had a great time. Such a good time that he just could not come back to it. But it was great working with you guys again. It's such a fun time, and it's really it enhances our knowledge and appreciation of the game to share it with all of you.
Yeah, and we're really appreciative of you guys. And honestly, it's allowed us to talk more about Roma, who it's one of the more interesting teams in Serie A or clubs in Serie A. So we love it, and we're obviously gonna be collaborating more often, right, Greg? Just say yes. All right, yeah, just say it. And Julian De Martinez, obviously phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I mean, no, it's great.
Oh yeah, I thought I said Greg.
No. I mean, you want to pimp out the old Twitter? And
so he's at what's his Twitter? At Julian DeMar.
TM11, I believe.
Yeah, and Greg Simaluka. We're gonna tweet out his Twitter handle.
At Greg C9.
At Greg C9, easy enough. We are the Trequartista podcast. Trequartista Pod, right? And La Magicast, and that's just at La Magicast, like magic asked. So again, thanks. It's getting a little silly here, but thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing, and till next time.
Take care.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.